All Hit Radio.
Welcome to the X Zone, a place where fact is fiction and fiction is reality. Now, here's your host, Rob McConnell.
In the silence of the night where shadows softly play, a voice emerges gently guiding minds astray. Rob McConnell calls to us from a realm unseen. The X Zone beckons softly where dreams blend with the keen. Cosmos, where the truth collides with lies, he crafts a tapestry of stories beneath an endless sky. And over 35 years of tales that twist and turn, each word a flicker sparking fires, igniting hearts that yearn. Dare to believe he softly pleads in this place divine, where fact is just a mirror.
And welcome back to the X Zone, everyone. I am Rob McConnell, and for the next 2 hours, I'm your host and your guide as together we'll cross the time-space continuum to this place that I call the X Zone. It's a place where people dare to believe and dare to be heard. It's a place where fact is fiction and fiction is reality. And the X Zone comes to you Monday through Friday from 10 p.m. Eastern until midnight, right here on the X Zone Broadcast Network, Talkstar Radio Network, and Mutual Broadcast Network. My first guest of this hour, X Zone Nation, we're welcoming a man whose work is helping to bridge the gap between life, death, and what lies beyond. Dr. Craig Hogan, one of the world's foremost researchers in afterlife studies and after-death communication. With a background that merges academic insight and spiritual inquiry, Dr. Hogan is the president of the Afterlife Research and Educational Institute and co-author of Your Eternal Self, a book that challenges conventional thinking and supports the idea that consciousness survives physical death. Now, through the decades of research, Dr. Hogan has explored near-death experiences, mediumship, electronic communication, all with the dead, and groundbreaking techniques like induced afterlife communication, which is, abbreviated to IADC, all aimed at proving that the human spirit does not end at the grave. Get ready, X Zone Nation. Tonight, we journey into the mysteries of the afterlife with leading expert Dr. Craig Hogan. And Dr. Hogan, welcome back to the X Zone. Always great having you with us.
Yeah, thank you, Rob. I look forward to it. I enjoy having these times together. It's great to talk about the dead, so here we go.
All right. Dr. Hogan, what for the listeners who have just joined our many networks, can you tell us a little bit about yourself and what first inspired your research into the afterlife?
Sure. Well, I originally was a graduate-level professor in business, and I was the owner of several businesses. And at about the age of 52, I started meeting psychics, and I didn't believe in psychics or religion or anything prior to that. And as I met these psychics, they were saying things that were just incredible. I mean, how could these people know these things? And so I delved into it further, and I went to a psychic just to see what it would do. And she told me that if you hold playing cards in your hand, you'll be able to tell, when they're face down, you'll be able to tell what the color and the suit is. And I thought, well, that's kind of strange. So I went home and I tried it out, and I took a deck of cards and put one at a time on the palm of my hand and laid them into two piles. One was going to be black and one was going to be red. And so then after I'd done about 25 of them, then I turned them over, and every one of the pile of black was black. And every one in the pile of red except one was red. So I realized that there's a whole lot more here going on than I had accepted before that. And then I started to find out about the idea of life after death, what happens to people when the body dies. And so I started meeting people who were the specialists in this field, and it was astounding to me. And as I got into it further, then I started to delve into it. I got started a circle here in Illinois, and I started to actually do the things that these mediums were doing, and I found out that we can communicate with the people who've left this life. And the more I got into it, the more I was able to do that, the more I realized that life continues after the body dies, that it's a seamless continuation, that we really are entirely the mind, and we're not the body. So when the body expires, we just keep on going. We have a wonderful time in the next life where we live with full bodies, and we can do things there, and the people who are there are joyous to come back and talk to us. And so I've been trying to talk to them. I've been getting the information from them, and now I'm trying to get it out to the world.
Dr. Hogan, how would you define the term afterlife in a scientific or philosophical sense?
Yeah, afterlife really is a misnomer because it isn't an afterlife, it's the same life. So it really is a seamless transition. So it's like going from adolescence into adulthood, or from childhood into adolescence. And there is a transition that we go at the end of this life. And in order to do that, we've got to get rid of the body, because we're not in the body. We're not part of the body. We use the body. And so when we make that transition, then the body has to die. And so that's what we're left with. People who are still here see the body going into the grave, or else being put into some other state. And as a result of that, then we realize that the body's gone and the mind isn't there because the body's gone. But we know that the mind has always been there. It's made a transition into another state, but it was always alive. It never deviated. The time of the passing at the end of this life is very quick, and there's no pain. There's no pain involved in it at all. And people on the other side come back and tell us, well, I didn't even realize that I was just there at one time, and then all of a sudden I was here, in the afterlife. And so the afterlife then is just that next stage of our lives, just like going from childhood into adolescence. Then we go into the life after this life, and that's what we call the afterlife.
What types of evidence do you believe most strongly support the existence of an afterlife, Craig?
The strongest evidence we have is the fact that people from the life after this life come back and they talk to their loved ones here. So that's the strongest evidence. There's no doubt about the fact that they do that. And so we have the recordings of people who are speaking from the afterlife, and they speak to their loved ones here. And one of the people who was doing this work was named Leslie Flint, who was a medium, direct voice medium in the 20th century. And he would have people come into the room with him, and the people from the afterlife with him would come in, and they would speak in the room audibly. You could hear them. We have the recordings. We have over 2,000 of the recordings now.
My goodness.
And many of these people were like children talking to their parents who were in the life after this life, or spouses talking to their spouse. And so there were records that are up to 45 minutes to an hour long of them having casual conversations like they're talking over the breakfast table. And these people then who are in the life after this life are telling their loved ones of what they were doing the day before, what they did differently, how they redecorated their house, what their loved ones are doing. And so we have these records now. We have many, many thousands of these records now of people coming through from that life, and they speak to their loved ones here, and they vouch for the fact that it was their loved one. Everything about them was the same. The voice quality was the same. What they were saying was the same, and that they were telling them about the things that they were doing in their lives currently. And so we know that from these firsthand accounts that people continue to live after the body dies. There's simply no doubt about that now.
Can you explain the difference between objective and subjective evidence of the afterlife?
Yeah, the objective evidence that we have of the afterlife is the testimonials from people who have their loved ones come through. We also have recordings, so we have electronic recordings of the people who come through. And these electronic recordings now, you can listen to them. The foremost researcher is Sonia Rinaldi in Brazil, and she actually does recordings in which she has parents call in. And she's done as many as 163 different parents during 1 month. And they would call in, and then they would ask their questions of their loved one, their child who was in spirit, and she would record what they had said, and we actually have the audible recordings that you can hear. And then the parents would say, yes, that is my child, and they're just excited about it. So we know that that's true, that those recordings are objective. Those are objective evidence. And we have the subjective evidence as well. 70% of widows and widowers say that they've had these experiences of their loved ones that have spoken to them either through mental, subjective means or from objective means. So we have both the subjective and the objective evidence that we continue to live after the body dies. There's no doubt about that, and we have the proof now.
If we are just energy or the soul that survives after we shed the meat suit, how then do the spirits communicate in a voice that can be recorded when there's nothing to generate a voice or an audio track that can be recorded?
Sure, that's reasonable. There are two things that are going on here. One of them is that when we get those recordings, then the recordings for what's called a direct voice medium, the recordings are of a voice that comes through an ectoplasmic voice box. And ectoplasm is the material that comes out of the medium's body, and it forms, the scientists on the other side form a voice box from it. The person speaks through that voice box, and then we have the recording of them, and that then is one of the ways that we get these recordings of people who are living in the life after this life. The other way that we get these recordings is by using the electronic media, using electronic technology, and we get the recordings from these people who are coming through, and then they are verified by their loved ones who are here on this side of life. And so through both of these means, then we get the recordings of the people living in the life after this life. Then we know that they're validated, and we know that they're true.
What was it like the first time, Craig, that you actually communicated with somebody on the other side? Like this person, I can only imagine what it was like.
Yeah, the most profound connection I've had was when I went to a psychotherapist named Rochelle Wright in Washington State. And Rochelle had learned a method of therapeutic counseling because she was a state licensed counselor. And she had learned a therapeutic method called EMDR, or eye movement desensitization and reprocessing. It's a breakthrough therapy method that takes care of trauma. They're using it with combat veterans who have PTSD. It's a wonderful therapy method, and what she found was that she could have people sitting in her office have afterlife connections with the peaceful people for whom they're grieving.
All right,
so
Craig,
they come into grief therapy, and she has have them have conversations with them in their mind.
Wow.
She gets them into a state of mind in which they're going to have the connection.
Craig, I'm going to have to take my break here. I'm going to have to take my break here.
Come through.
Craig, I'm going to have to take my break here. Please stand by.
Sure.
Dr. Craig Hogan is my special guest. We're talking about the afterlife, communicating with the afterlife, and much more. You can always send me an email, xzone@xzoneradiotv.com, and Dr. Hogan and I return after this short break. Don't go away.
He softly pleads in this place. In the heart of the night, where the shadows play, on the X Zone we gather, come what may. With Rob McConnell guiding us through the dark, searching for truth hidden, igniting the spark. Whispers of spirits, both gentle and bold. Tales of the ancients in the stories retold. From haunted old houses to the echoing halls, we seek the unknown where mystery calls. On the X Zone Radio, where the truth finds a way. that wander and sway, inviting the seekers, the wise and the brave. Join us each episode, let the curious say, with voices like Larry and Paul at the helm, they guide us through.
And welcome back. All the music that we're playing this hour are from our new CD that you can go to at, let me see here, REL-MAR music, INTL.ca. There's a whole bunch of great music there, and you can listen to it with our compliments. Once again, that's REL-MAR MUSIC-INTL.ca. Dr. Craig Hogan is my very special guest. We're talking about the afterlife. And, Craig, how do you deal with skepticism? You know, at one time you yourself were a skeptic, I believe. And yet here you are, one of the world's leading experts in afterlife communication.
Yeah, I was absolutely a skeptic. I actually had gone through a stint in which I was at Wheaton College, Wheaton, Illinois, as a graduate professor in a Christian ministries department. So I was thoroughly into religion at that time. And then after that, I gave up on the religions because I didn't find that to be true. Mm-hmm. And so then for a long time, I was just had no belief system of any kind. But when I started having these encounters with people who understood the truth, and I started looking at the evidence, and the evidence was compelling. And then from the evidence that I was receiving, then I started having my own experiences. And you asked about one of the profound experiences that I had, and I had an EMDR experience in which Rochelle Wright, who is the psychotherapist in Washington, put me into the state of mind in which I had my own afterlife communication. And I then saw my grandparents, and they were sitting at a table, and they saw me in their house, and I was sobbing because they had both passed. And I saw them in this experience, in this EMDR experience that was happening inside my mind. And I saw them, and they said to me very clearly, nothing can last forever. We love you, and we look forward to having you when you come over to this side. And then I saw my parents. They come in, and they talked to me for a while. And I said, then Rochelle Wright said to me, is there anything else you'd like to ask of anybody? And I said, yes, where's all this going to go? All my studies that I'm doing now of the afterlife and afterlife communication. And when I closed my eyes, immediately it came up a long table with people sitting on either side, and they were applauding. And at the end of it was an easel, and it had all kinds of drawings on it. And they said, the plan is in place. Just follow the plan. And this was a profound experience. Anyone can have that experience. Anyone can have a communication with people they love, can get messages from them. They can do it either by going to someone like the EMDR psychotherapist or Dr. Alan Botkin, who is another psychotherapist in Libertyville, Illinois, who does the same thing, or they can just go into it. We have a training program online where we teach people how to have their own afterlife communications. It's free. It's online. We invite people to get on it and just have an experience. And they can get to that by going to seekreality.com. And we just love to have people. And then I help people who go through that experience if they would like to have it.
With all the geopolitical unrest in the world today, does this affect how the communication is done with the other side? And do the other side ever talk about things that are happening on this side of the veil?
Yes, and it does interfere, so that all the turmoil that's going on in the world right now does interfere with the afterlife communication. They are very aware of it. Of course, they follow this because you realize the people who live in the life after this life are exactly the same as they were here, and they grow into that life. They grow from there, but they are aware of things that are happening. They have the same sentiments, the same sadness, the same happiness. And so then they're watching what goes on in the earth plane, and they're dismayed at the fact that it is becoming increasingly turmoil and that there are difficulties that we're having here, and we needn't have them. Their message to us is you don't need to have this turmoil. You don't need to have the antagonism that we have. Mm-hmm. If we just understood the fact that we are eternal beings having a physical experience, and that we are sojourners with each other in this period in our lives, this brief period in our lives. And if we just will open ourselves to love and compassion for other people, we can live in what amounts to a heaven on earth. And that's what they say to us, and that's why they feel very saddened that we are not able to have the lives with each other that we should be having. And they tell us that this world now is, because when they come down into this world, it's like penetrating a deep, dark fog, is what they say, because of the turmoil in the world. We can change this world. We just have to, as a species, change our love and compassion for one another.
It's almost as if the way to live in perfect harmony with one another is very simple, but yet we as humans complicate it.
Yeah, we do, and we're brought up that way. So in other words, we are reared in cultures that are primitive. We are vastly ahead of where we would think we might be at this time in humanity's history, in AI, in what we do. We can send people into space. We can send satellites around distant objects, and we're technologically so advanced, but we are spiritually backwards. We are still in caves. We're still in the Stone Age spiritually, and so we just have to mature. We have to grow up. And the way to do that is for people to understand this, to look at the evidence and to understand the fact that we are eternal beings, that we are brothers and sisters with one another. We are united with one another. And if we just change our attitude towards one another, we will grow in love and compassion. It's a natural state. At the basis of our reality, at the basis of our nature, is love. And all we have to do is allow that love to come out. The reason we know that is because people have such wonderful experiences when they feel love for someone and feel they are loved by someone else. That's at the basis of our reality. So we just have to allow that love to come through.
How does the religious philosophies that people belong to, how does this affect well, let me just look at it this way. It seems to me that religion stagnates the actual progression of life.
Yeah, what Carl Jung said was that religion is a mechanism against having a religious experience. And what that means is that by being part of a religion and accepting dogma from the religion, that we're not going inside and having these direct spiritual experiences. Our spiritual experiences are not going to come from a religion. We can get excited by a religion, we can get excited being in a congregation of singing songs, and that's excitement, but that's not spiritual. And even though that people would say that it's spiritual, we get spiritual by going inside. That's what Yeshua said. Yeshua is whose name came down to us as Jesus. And what he was saying is that the mind of God is inside. We are the mind of God, and that we then will allow that to shine through, and we will have love and compassion for others if we just give up on the trappings, give up on the nonsense. The Buddhists said the same thing, that the way to have no suffering in this world is to give up on all the cravings and all the expectations. And so religion gets in the way. Religion just keeps people from going inside and making those discoveries and becoming a spiritual person. So if we can just get rid of the religions, that will do a great amount to helping humanity mature spiritually.
It must be very hard for those who belong to an established religious philosophy to hear that, you know what, you've got it all wrong. You've got it all wrong. And you know, if they were to understand and to accept what you and I talk about whenever we have the pleasure of having you on the show, Craig, is that we don't have to fear death. We should embrace it. Yeah,
that's it. And what they are doing is stultifying. What they're doing is they're actually being obstacles to having a spiritual experience. A spiritual experience is something that you have internally. It's something that you have that is engaged in love and compassion and concern for others, and we have that when we stop with any of the dogma. The dogma can be scientific. Materialists have their own dogma. The scientists who are materialists have their own dogma, the same way the religions do. And we have to give up on the religions. We have to give up on the science dogma and accept the fact that we are one with each other. We're one family. We're brothers and sisters. And when we do that and we allow the love to come through, it shines. It comes out naturally. It's who we are. We want the love. We want the feeling of companionship with each other. We want to feel like other people love us, and we want to love them. And that will come through naturally if we just take off the shell that's an almost impenetrable shell that is keeping us from allowing those feelings to come out.
Craig staying by. We've got to take our break at the bottom of the hour. And Exo Nation, our very special guest this hour is our good friend, Dr. Craig Hogan. And for more information about Dr. Hogan and the work that they do, along with another good lady that we've had the pleasure of having here on the show, Miss Roberta Grimes, visit www.seekreality.com. I'm Rob McConnell. This is the X Zone. And the good doctor and I will be back on the other side of this very short break here in the X Zone. After all, this is truly a place where people dare to believe and dare to be heard. It's a place where fact is fiction and fiction is reality, and we're here Monday through Friday from 10 p.m. Eastern until midnight on the Talkstar Radio Network, Mutual Broadcast Network, and X Zone Broadcast Network. I'm Rob McConnell. Don't go away.
From Newfoundland shores to the peaks so grand, we walk together united in this land. Every culture, every heart, a story to unfold. In this living tapestry, our pride is bold. With the wheat fields waving under skies so wide, we carry within us the Canadian pride. It's more than a passport, it's a bond, it's a song. To be Canadian, where we all belong. Oh, proud to be Canadian, our spirits soar high, with values that connect us like stars in the sky. We stand for each other through thick and through thin, in this beautiful mosaic together. Hey there, gather round, it's time for the show. The X-Zone's where the wild mysteries flow. Rob McConnell's here with a voice so clear. Dive into Bigfoot, no need for fear. In the heart of the woods where legends reside, with footprints and stories Uncle Sam confides. Patterson Gimlin, let's rewind that tape. Frame by frame, let's scrutinize the shape. Expert guests and researchers on the line, with skeptics chiming in, forming quite the design. Whether sightings are true or just a wild tale, we're exploring every clue, let the mystery prevail. Searching for Bigfoot, oh what a ride. In the X-Zone we'll take it in stride. Thermal imaging and whispers at night. Rob's got the scoop and he's shining a light. Keep your minds open, let curiosity reign. In the search for the truth, there's so much to gain. From audio recordings of howls in the dark to ancient indigenous tales that spark the tales of Sasquatch are woven so fine. Rob's gathering voices, it's truly divine. In North America's wild, legends undeterred with chilling.
And welcome back. We're talking about afterlife experiences and afterlife communication this hour here in the X Zone. Dr. Craig Hogan is my guest, and his website is seekreality.com. Craig, are there patterns you've observed among people who have had near-death experiences, or what we in the biz call NDEs?
Yeah, the near-death experience has a profound effect upon people, and the reason for that is because they do have a real encounter. Now, we know the fact that the near-death experience occurs when the body is shut down. In other words, then the first thing to go when a body becomes anoxic, when it's not getting oxygen, is that the mental processing goes away. and they have no memories. They can't bring memories back during that period of time. And in a near-death experience, they actually have more profound memories. They have experiences that they couldn't possibly have that were when the body is shut down. And so during these near-death experiences, then, what people do is they do have encounters with their loved ones living in the life after this life. They learn things. They all go through the similar experiences. They have the bright light and the feeling of going down a tunnel, the presence that is a divine presence, a loving divine presence. And so then we know that these are the same kinds of experiences and that they are on the threshold of the life after this life. They don't make it there. So it is different from what happens when they make the transition. But it is definitely a glimpse into the life after this life. There's a small minority, there are 5% of them that are negative. In other words, because they are in trauma, the body is being manipulated, people are moving the body around, then they are having a bad dream. That's only 5%, and it never is. There's nothing about it that is similar among these experiences. So we know that they are just from the body. But the other experiences, the near-death experiences, are wonderful. People come away from them then with the psychic abilities. Their abilities are changed. Their mental makeup has changed. They're more loving, more compassionate, and they have some psychic abilities. So we know that it has a profound effect upon them, and that's another indication of the fact that this is a real encounter at the threshold of the life after this life, which will be a wonderful experience when we do make that transition all the way through.
Craig, can you explain the concept of induced afterlife communication, or what is known as IADC, and how it works?
Sure. Dr. Alan Botkin at Libertyville VA Hospital was doing EMDR, eye movement desensitization and reprocessing, with his combat vets, and it has a wonderful effect on them. It takes care of their PTSD.
Right.
And he was having one in which he had the soldier tell him, after he opened his eyes from his mental experience, that he had met the woman for whom he was grieving. She was an orphan girl from Vietnam. And he had seen her. He had grown to love her while he was in Vietnam, and he watched her being killed. She was killed with a bullet ripped through her body. And so he then had this experience in which she came to him. But she wasn't a little 12-year-old girl anymore. She was a beautiful young woman. And she said to him, "You don't need to feel bad about me. I'm wonderful now. I know where I am, and we will soon have our own encounter with each other." And so he realized that he had something here. He was not ready for that. He wasn't going to induce after-death communications. He was just giving EMDR. And so then he studied it to find out what happened. And he found out that by putting the person into an EMDR state of mind, that then they would go with whatever happened to them, and he would say, just allow whatever happens to happen. Wherever it goes, let it go. And then people were spontaneously having after-death communications. And that was happening 60 to 70% of the time when he would have a client come through. And so he realized that this is a wonderful phenomenon. And then he and I wrote a book about it together. We co-authored a book about what he was doing. And then Rochelle Wright, who was in Washington, she improved on his method. And then I wrote a book with her as well. And so this method of using EMDR, eye movement desensitization and reprocessing, is a really wonderful way. And now we have hundreds of psychotherapists, and anybody can get to them by going to our website at repairandreattachment.com or to the IADC website, which is IADC-.com. And they can find the psychotherapists there.
Craig, how reliable are mediums or psychics when it comes to actually channeling messages from the deceased? Now, I'm the first one to agree that there are true psychics and true mediums. However, there are those who have a little bit more of a sinister plot in mind. How can somebody find the true psychic and the true medium?
Yeah, and it is true that are very good mediums, and there are mediums who are not so good. Mediums have been studied. There were a series of studies that were done at the University of Arizona of mediums, including people like John Edward, who was one of the television mediums, and they were studied, and they came up with success rates in being able to ascertain what a person in spirit was saying to their loved one on this side of life at about 3.5 out of 4 points. So it was very strong. And so then they realized the fact that this is true, that mediums do have messages from loved ones living in the afterlife. But the fact is that there are many people who are not mediums who don't realize that there is such a thing as mediumship. They just think that every medium is faking it. And so then these people hang up a shingle and they say, well, we'll do readings for you. Look, they're in the telephone book, and you can get them out of yellow pages. And but they are charlatans. They are not true mediums, even if they don't realize it. And the reason, the way to find out if a medium is genuine is the medium should first say that there is a person, and that what the relationship of the person is to you when you're having a reading, and then should say evidential things. Evidential things mean they tell you things that a medium couldn't have known. They could, even if they looked on internet for things about it, they couldn't have known. John Edward had one in the University of Arizona studies in which he said, I see a wedding party, and I see two poodles. One is black, one is white, and the two poodles ravaged through the wedding and tore up everything in the wedding. And sure enough, that's exactly what happened. That was true. I had a medium say to me, I keep seeing Punxsutawney. And I don't know why I keep seeing Punxsutawney. I keep seeing the Punxsutawney Phil, who's a groundhog that comes out, and if he sees his shadow, then there's 6 more weeks of winter. And I said, well, it's because my father was born in Punxsutawney. And she said, but he's telling me that there are 4 Roberts in your family. And I said, yes, that's right. My first name is Robert, even though my middle name is Craig. And my father's name, my grandfather's name, and my cousin's name are all Robert. So she was right. That's evidential. Expect that out of a medium. The medium can do that because the people on the other side of life want to show that they are there, want to show that it is really them. So if you demand evidence and don't accept things like, oh, there's somebody coming through from the other life, and it's somebody who's older. Of course, everybody has people who are older in the afterlife. And they're sending their love to you. Well, of course they're sending their love. So those are not evidential. But if you require an evidential medium to give you the evidence, they will be able to give it to you. That's the way you find out.
Craig, how does afterlife communication work along with the belief in reincarnation?
Yeah, the reincarnation is misunderstood. We're being told this from the people living in the life after this life. What they say is that we do not reincarnate. In other words, we don't come back as a new person. We stay the individuals we are throughout eternity. And that what happens is that other people from our higher self, which is a group of souls, our higher self has new people come into this life, and they will come here and they may take a piece from our life or a fragment from our life or even a whole framework from our life. And so what they're doing is they're repeating things from our life, and we're intertwined with them. So a past life regression isn't really a past life. It is another life regression. It's that other person's life that we're seeing in the past life regression. And so then we know that we continue to live. We have one person who came through in Anthony Borges' book, Life in the World Unseen, which I really recommend anybody read if you want to understand the afterlife. But Anthony Borges' book, then he said he had been there for 1,000 years. We have people coming through from the Roman Empire. From Confucius came through from the 4th century B.C. Everyone lives on. We continue our individuality. We have someone else incarnate, and we are intertwined with them. That's where the past life regressions come from. They should really be called other life regressions.
We've only got about 2 minutes left in this final segment, Craig. I'm sorry, the next segment is the final segment. In your view, what happens to consciousness at the moment of physical death?
Yeah, what happens is that consciousness continues So it is seamless. There are a great number of things that happen during that period of time when the body stops functioning and the person then assumes their new identity in the afterlife. And it really is, it's the same person. The body just stops running, that's all. But we are the same person. But there are a great many ways in which that happens. And some people then, if they're coming to the end of their life after a long illness, they will see their loved ones coming into the room from the afterlife, and they'll be raising their hands to the ceiling because they can see them, and they'll talk to them, and they're being guided into the next life. When that transition happens into the next life, it's seamless. People don't even realize it happens. They think they're still on Earth, and we have one incident in which a man was in a car and he was driving with his fiance's sister, and they were driving down the road, and it was at night, and they were blinded by a truck coming at them, the car lights of a truck coming at them, and then all of a sudden, he and his fiance's sister were rising up out of the car, and as they rose up out of the car, they watched the accident happen below them, 30 feet below. And they came through in the life after this life and said that. They explained that this happened. No one feels pain at the transition. Everyone makes a seamless transition into the next life. Sometimes it can be sudden. We have a man who...
Craig, I've got to stop. We're going to have a bit of a cliffhanger here. Craig Hogan is my special guest. SeekReality.com is a website that is filled with information. And Craig and I will be back on the other side of this short break as we wrap up the first hour right here in the X Zone with yours truly, Rob McConnell, from our broadcast center and studios in St. Catharines, Ontario, Canada, on the Talkstar Radio Network, Mutual Broadcast Network, and the X Zone Broadcast Network. Don't go away.
So wide, we carry within us the Canadian pride. It's more than a passport, it's a bond.
In story, and shore streets
in a world where shadows dance and dreams take flight through the veil of reality into the night, Rob McConnell leads the way, a beacon so bright. With over 35 years, he ignites the light. A voice from the north where whispers are bold, stories untold in the echoes of old. Fact meets fiction in this realm of delight, in the X Zone where dark turns to bright. Welcome to the X Zone, believe and be free, a sanctuary for truth that dare to be seen, where the line between realms gently blurs, in a symphony of voices the mind stirs. With Rob McConnell, stories unfold, tales of the unknown that shimmer like gold. Every guest a new chapter, with eyes open wide. In this vast tapestry, there's nowhere to hide. Aliens and hauntings, the secrets of time. Each moment a journey, sublime and prime, where skeptics and dreamers alike share their truth. In the heart of the cosmos, embracing our youth. Fact is fiction and fiction is real. In the X Zone, it's the power to feel.
And welcome back, everyone. Dr. Craig Hogan is our special guest. www.seekreality.com. First of all, Craig, as always, thank you so much for joining us. Always a great pleasure talking to you. And has there been any more advances in research when it comes to the afterlife? Not for those who believe, like yourself, who have had the evidence presented to you through you, but for those who just cannot fathom the idea that life does continue.
Yeah, we have the evidence, and we are gaining more evidence all of the time. We're having more methods. We now have a total that I explain of 15 different methods by which people can meet with their loved ones who are living in the afterlife. And that is the best evidence. The best evidence is when people have their own communication. They actually speak to, they get responses from their loved ones living in the afterlife. And so what we're trying to do is we're trying to promote more of that. We do have efforts that are being made in electronics, because of the fact that now electronics are becoming commonplace in everybody's life, and as a result of that, then they are going to be able to communicate from life after this life through electronics. Sonia Rinaldi in Brazil is doing work with electronics in helping people to communicate. She's helping parents to communicate with their children especially. But we're now in a new era with Sonia, in which those celestial entities who are helping us, who are trying to help humankind to rise out of the difficulties that it's having, and trying to help us understand the fact that we continue to live after the body dies. And she's getting constant communication now, very, very clear communication, in which they are going to be giving us new methods. There are going to be more methods by which we can communicate. And so we have an entire website that we're going to be devoting to her work and helping people to have these experiences. And eventually we're hoping to have people able to chat with their loved one living in the afterlife through electronic means. That's the goal. And we believe that that is in the future, that we are that close to do it. We can see it in the future, and all we have to do now is make it come to fruition. And that's what we're working on.
Craig, if this existence that you and I are presently in, why do we have to worry then about paying the rent, physical pain, what we have to worry about tomorrow, if all this is just part of a matrix reality? Because once we're finished here, we continue to another reality. So how do we blend, or how do we justify the fact that this is a matrix? Whatever we do or do not do will have no effect on what happens when we continue this journey.
Yeah, we just have to be born into it. We just have to realize the truth. Because if people realize the truth, the fact that we needn't worry about what's going on here, because we're going to make the transition and go into the next life. And the Buddhists saw this, and they said the Four Noble Truths. The first one was that the world is suffering, but it isn't suffering that is in the world. It's suffering that we create, that we make ourselves. And the second noble truth is that we do it by craving things, by wanting things, by expecting our life to be in a certain way and not accepting what it is that's in our lives. And so if we can come to the point at which we realize that we are eternal beings having a very brief physical experience, and that we will continue after this body dies, then we can regard ourselves and others in our lives differently. We can be differently. We can have more love and compassion. But what we have to do is we have to give up on all of those old beliefs. We have to give up on all of those things that we were taught as children, because they're falsehoods. They're primitive. They came out of the Stone Age, and we are still believing those things. We're believing that we don't that the body dies and the brain dies with it, and that means the mind dies, or that we have to get everything we can get out of this life because there's only this life and that's all that there is. And if we can just get past that, and so when people do that, when they evolve out of those beliefs into an understanding that we are sojourners, we are compatriots in this life, and that we can have love and peace and joy. All we have to do is take it. All we have to do is realize that it's there and enjoy it with other people. That will make the difference in our lives.
Once again, I understand what you're saying, and so many other people are starting to tune into the afterlife and what actually happens. But there's a lot of people out there, Craig, who you start talking about, communicating with the dead and how easy it is, and they look at you if you have 3 heads.
Yeah, that's true.
So how do we, as believers, work together in order to prove to the skeptics that we're not nuts, we don't have 3 heads, but we're very serious, and we want to give them a very important, life-altering message that will change their lives forever.
Yeah. All we can do is share. So we can share what we know to be true, share the evidence that we know to be true, and where we know that there are ways that people can communicate with their loved ones, we need to teach them how to do that. We need to make that available to them. Because if you have a real encounter with your Uncle Jim, or your grandma Ethel, and she is now living in the life after this life, and if you have a real encounter with communicating with them, that changes you as a person. It's like having a near-death experience. You become a different person. So what we're trying to do is we're trying to make more of these methods of afterlife communication available. That will make a difference for humankind. When it becomes commonplace, when anybody can have these communications, then the families will talk about them. It will be possible that the family sitting around the breakfast table may be having breakfast, and little Jimmy says, "Oh, Grandma's here," and everybody says, "Oh, say hi to Grandma. Grandma's here." Grandma's been dead for 15 years. When we have those kinds of conversations and accept the reality that our loved ones are here, then humankind will change. It'll be a different humanity, and we can expect that. We can look forward to that. It will come in the future. We're just at the point of trying to make it happen now, just by giving people the information, giving people the insights, helping them to have their own communication. That will make a difference for humankind.
Well, couldn't we use the Bible to help with this, especially when we look at the crucifixion, and that, for 40 days and 40 nights, the spirit or the physical being of Jesus lived with his apostles. Could this be interpreted as proof of the afterlife?
Yes, we know that in fact to be true, that Yeshua, or Jesus, did in fact appear to his disciples.
Right.
And that is a common thing that happens after a person passes into the next life. And he did come back to spend time with his apostles and his followers, the many followers, the 500. And he did spend time with them. And so he appeared to them, he talked to them, and he did that to show them the fact that we will continue to live after the body dies. That was his purpose. His purpose wasn't to say that he was a god. His purpose was to help. He was the great teacher. He was the person who gave us that information. The Gnostics had a better view of it than the Christians do. And if we can just get past this idea that somehow that Jesus is a god, and that we have to be obedient, and that if we don't like Jesus enough, then we're going to go to hell, and all these mythologies that have built up.
Yeah.
Because the religions have mythologies. The mythologies have to go. But the truth, the essence of the truth, and what Yeshua, Jesus, was saying is important for us to learn. And so we should go back to those teachings and understand the profound truths that he was speaking, and that will make a difference for humankind.
My last question for you tonight, Craig, is because I've got just about 2 minutes before I have to say so long, is what ethical considerations arise when attempting to contact the deceased?
Yeah, there are no ethical considerations in the sense that it's bad or wrong or something like that. We will be able to communicate with our loved ones anytime we want, so that we are freely available to communicate, just as though they had gone into the next room, or we called them on the phone because they're living in the next city. So it is a profoundly wonderful experience that they want to have with us. They're anxious to communicate with us, and so we can communicate with them. And we just have to do it. Just have to relax, allow them to come into our mind, allow them to speak to us, and they will speak to us. And there's nothing bad about that. There's nothing sacrilegious about that, or any of the mythologies from the Old Testament about not speaking to mediums and all of that nonsense. It is a wonderful experience. Everyone should have it. Their loved ones want to have it with them on the other side, and they can have it, and it can make a difference in their lives.
Craig, as always, time goes by so fast when you're with us. First of all, thank you so much for joining us tonight. And let our listeners know how they can find out more about you and the great work that you and Roberta do.
Yeah, it's been a pleasure. And they can go to seekreality.com And there we are putting up all of the latest things that we're discovering, articles and videos and anything that we can put up that will help people to understand that we are eternal beings having a physical experience, and we will continue after the body dies, and we can communicate with our loved ones living in the next life.
Dr. Craig Hogan, take care of yourself. Thank you once again, and I look forward to the next time you join us back here in the X Zone.
Thank you. It's been a pleasure.
Take care, my friend. That's it for this hour, X Zone Nation. I will be back on the other side of a very short break as hour number 2 with yours truly, Rob McConnell, here in the X Zone. Starts right now.
In the late night hours when the world's asleep, Rob McConnell's voice echoes secrets to keep. From Roswell's whispers to tales of the sky, on the X Zone Radio we learn to fly high. With every new guest the story unfolds, from abductees' tales to the mysteries told. Government cover-ups, they're deep and they're wide, but we're on a quest with the truth as our guide.